Good morning, 97.1. Jim Costa, John Jansen, Heather Park in their matching gray sweatshirts. Heather with the hearts, of course. Gov and Greg behind the glass. We opened the show talking Pistons basketball once we sorted out everyone's outfits today,
No heart
John.
back there.
No. Pistons pick up their 40th win. We had Trajan Langdon on yesterday, and when asked about, hey, is this team is good enough to win an NBA championship, he was quick to point out that they have not won a playoff series or a home playoff game. He doesn't have to talk about it, but we can.
Yep.
So do you view the Pistons? Have they earned the expectations of, hey, this team can win the NBA championship? Trajan doesn't want to do that. We can.
Well, the 40-20 rule says, yes, they have.
Yeah.
And they're only one of probably three teams that'll make that mark. But just what you're looking on the floor and say, what is this team, the Pistons team, and how does it compare to recent champs? And I know that, okay, Denver, yeah, they won a championship a couple of years ago, so it's not the same team, but they have that experience. And the Pistons have matched them when they've played. We will get a chance to see them against OKC, after the break, minus Beef Stew. But I think this team certainly has that potential. I don't think you're looking at them as the favorites. No one is going to say that, but the expectation is, for me, and this is a question that we're asking, is where are you setting the expectation? My expectation is that they are playing for a championship, that they are in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the odds right now to win the finals, the Thunder are heavy favorites. So I'm not going to say the Pistons have to win the NBA title or the season's a failure, but they've earned being in the discussion. So Denver's second. Detroit beat them twice, including one with Jokic. Boston is number 3, although we don't know what's going on with Tatum and how effective he will be if and when he returns. The Spurs, who the Pistons will play twice before the playoffs. The Knicks and the Pistons and Cavs are all tied. The Pistons are the 1 seed in the East. I expect them. I think they've earned the expectation that they would win the Eastern Conference.
So here's another question. A little bit of a twist. The expectation for me is that they're playing for an NBA championship. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I will be disappointed.
There's a middle ground is what you're trying to say.
There's a middle ground, yeah, because if they make the Eastern Conference Finals and lose, I don't think I'm going to be disappointed in them, if that makes sense.
No, I know you will be disappointed in the moment where the season's over,
right?
But not in the season they had. And that's kind of what, because they've sped this thing up so quickly from where they were 2 years ago. Remember Cade Cunningham?
14 wins.
Cade Cunningham, I can remember it at the podium, him going, man, we're not 2-26 bad. Like almost like, what the hell is this? But they were 2-26 at one point, right? And then to flip the switch as quickly as they have 2 years later to be the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, I can't imagine I'm going to be scowling at the season if they lost in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, having advanced multiple rounds in the playoffs for a young team.
Right. And so to take that comment of Cade, and I remember talking about it, yeah, you are, because, insert Denny Green, you are what your record says you are. But now you can flip that around and say the same thing. Mm-hmm. Hey, you're 40-13. You are what your record says you are. You're a damn good team.
Have they earned the expectation of a team competing for an NBA championship? Or do you find yourself more in the slow your roll, Trajan Langdon, we haven't even won a playoff series or a home playoff game? Which camp would you say you're in? 248-539-9797. And where would you set your bar? I think we're on the same page here, John. I expect this team, with how well they've played,
to be in the finals. To
be in the finals, to win the Eastern Conference. And if they lose in the East final, I guess if they were swept, that'd be a little
sure. A lot
upset.
of it, yeah. I mean, we could go into all the context of it.
Without drilling too deep, yes. Yeah, I think if they lose in the East, it's kind of the East final. That's kind of the break-even point.
Well, and it's kind of what we've experienced here in Detroit of the path to a championship with the Pistons, because we thought we were seeing it with the Lions. Mm-hmm. Hasn't really materialized. But it's that last hump that you have to get over. And last year it was, hey, you got your toe wet in the postseason, and you weren't able to overcome the Knicks. Now this year, hey, offseason, you've made some improvements. We talked to JB about what was Cade doing in the offseason, what were these guys doing, And now we're seeing the fruits of all of that labor, and it's what's the next step? You don't normally go from first round exit to next year NBA Finals competition.
Yeah, maybe I put another wrinkle into this. If they were to lose to Boston, Tatum comes back and looks like Tatum, and they were to lose to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'd have a hard time being upset at the season. The moment, yeah. But the season, I go, well, they have a 1-2 punch. They have Tatum and Brown, and if both guys are healthy and Tatum looks like vintage Tatum after getting back and getting his sea legs under him, you didn't lose to a lesser team, John. In a lot of ways, they would have lost to the better team.
Well, and so what we're doing is we're trying to make these comments without the context of what's happening. Yeah, and yeah, if you get swept in the finals, who swept you? Who was eligible to play?
Yeah.
All of those things we don't know. But what we are going off of is the fact that this is a good team. They're showing up in the biggest moments and beating some of the better teams.
So if you get to the Celtics and you have home court advantage, 7-game series, East Finals, and they lose, is that a failure?
I'd have a hard time calling it a failure.
Let me ask it without Tatum.
Yeah, see, then you're really like he doesn't play at all in the series.
Yeah, so they've got quite the dilemma in him returning because it looks like he's trending towards being ready in mid to late March. He joined the G League team and is doing regular 5-on-5s. So
by late May in an Eastern Conference final, I would think he's back.
Well, the dilemma is typically in the NBA, you just take 12 months with an Achilles, which would be May. Do you throw him into playoff basketball returning from an Achilles? Or do they just ramp him up for March and let it fly because he's a quick healer? I mean, the last thing they want to do, and you hit it before the show, they've won a championship already, is for him to suffer this injury again.
Because it could be career-altering if he were to suffer a setback because he rushed back.
Right, or suffers a different injury because he's overcompensating for this one.
Exactly. So
that's why we've circled this and said, well, what if they play it cautious and he doesn't play, and there's no Halliburton, and you've curb stomped the Knicks multiple times, and James Harden is a sleeper cell agent for the Cavs who's going to implode their season. Like, you got to win the East. Right?
They started slow this year, the Celtics. They were 7-7. They're 28-12 since. So they're not far from pacing with the Pistons as is without Tatum. So I'm in the Langdon camp, and I really took it to heart what he said yesterday in terms of we haven't even won a home game or a playoff series yet. That's a lot for a team to take on. And I'll make the comp to a team that had a superstar and a blossoming MVP to the Thunder a couple years ago. They went from 40 wins 3 years ago to 57 2 years ago, and then got knocked out by Luka and the Mavs in 6 games in the East semis. That it's just such a mountain to climb for a team, especially, and maybe the comparisons there too, that there's not a true number 2, and there wasn't on the Thunder at the time.
Jalen Williams kind of became a number 2
in the next year. So, and Duran's kind of becoming that, maybe you could argue to a degree.
Well, that would be the argument is, as an all-star this year, has he become that? And he's not a traditional number 2 in the sense that he's going to go get his own shot because he's more of a traditional around-the-basket player. But he does give them a second option.
I think
is it enough? I think in a normal East, it might not be enough. In this East, it should be enough. And I think they've shown in this East, they are the top of the pop. Like, they're the beast of the East. And it's why we give people that Phil Jackson stat. 40 wins before 20 losses. That is typically the criteria of an NBA champion. 40 wins before your 20th loss. Pistons are 40-13. Only 3 teams are likely to say that they are that team this year. 2 are in the West. The Spurs and the Thunder. So, yeah, the Pistons are a legitimate NBA title contender, and I don't want to be afraid to shout it from the rooftop that they're a legitimate NBA title contender. The GM wants to play it close to the vest, take it day by day. The team president of basketball operations says, whoa, slow your roll. But I think if you're looking at this from the outside, you can say this team's a legitimate NBA title contender.
So before the season, I thought they'd win over 50 games. I was the most optimistic on the show in terms of what I thought they'd do this year, because I thought they would benefit from being a team that tries hard every night in the NBA versus teams who take nights off. They do not take nights off. Maybe the Wizards game a couple weeks ago, but they're few and far between. I think that catches up with you a little bit in the playoffs when every team's trying hard every night. Points are at a premium. Doubles on Cade, and where if they're not shooting the 3 well, where's the points coming from? that they're going to get grinded out and go into deep series, and because I haven't seen their playoff DNA yet, really, I don't know. I don't want to put too much on them, or like I think the East Final is the limit.
Okay.
I think they're going to run into somebody that's way more battle tested, and it's going to grind them out.
Certainly, that's on the table. And that's why I say I expect them actually to be in the NBA Finals, but I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be heartbroken. Maybe I'd be upset, maybe be heartbroken, but I wouldn't deem it a failure if that's where they got outed.
I think the Cavs are a wild card. I know you poke fun at Harden and the playoffs experience and stuff, but you know what? Are they hiding in the weeds a little this year? Are they pacing themselves because of what happened the previous year where they won 64 games?
There's no doubt that the Pistons, factually haven't won a playoff series. So if you want to say the only way you can earn the expectation is to win a playoff series, then I get it. It's a non-starter. Like for you, it'd be a non-starter. For Trajan, it's a non-starter. They haven't won a playoff series, so they haven't earned the expectation. I feel like they have, to me. But you got to answer that for yourself. We got open lines, 248-539-9797. Collect some of these ticket texts. Your texts are flooding in. It's 97.1.